happy to dive in here. Again, my name is Allie Mack. Brendan and I are the co-presidents of the Real Estate Association. I am originally from South Georgia, so grew up in a way more suburban type of place than New York City. I have always been really interested in real estate, architecture, and built environment, which took me to engineering school at Georgia Tech, where I studied industrial engineering, really had like a ton of interest in math and processes. And so kind of veered away a little bit from like the built environment and studied kind of like how supply chains and data analytics can make the world more efficient. That took me to my 5 years post-grad to Capital One, where I was in their analyst development program. I managed a variety of their credit lending programs. So a little bit relevant to real estate, but like also not relevant at all. And so when I was thinking about during the pandemic, like what was next for me, I really wanted to return to my kind of true love, and that was real estate. And as I was in y'all's shoes, really found Columbia and its support from the Paul Milstein Center, which we'll talk about a little bit more later, to be the right fit for me, given my technical background and non-real estate background. Last year, as a first year, got really involved with Real Estate Association, which led me to this leadership position and landing an internship with Beachwald Residential, which is a rather small multifamily investor that is headquartered in New York, but invests in a lot of communities similar to the one that I grew up in the Sun Belt and also in the tri-state area. And so I had a really great experience there, working primarily in investing and primarily in acquisitions. So happy to chat about any of that experience as well. And I'll pass off the intro to Brendan.
Thanks. Thanks, Allie Mack. My name is Brendan. First, I'm a bit disheveled in appearance today. I just got back from a 7-day hiking trip in Utah, so bear with me on that. My background's a bit different than Allie Mack's in that I've been in the industry for some time, but to back up a bit, born and raised in Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, in the suburbs, ended up going to the University of Texas at Austin. Growing up, my uncle and my father started a development company that ended up reaching pretty big scale. So I knew I wanted to go into the industry in some way, shape, or form. Ultimately got the opportunity to move to New York after school and start my career at JP Morgan and their real estate investment group, a massive kind of well-known, well-respected institutional real estate investor with more than $50 billion to AUM. Spent a year and a half there and then made sort of a strategic move to a company called Pennybacker Capital, which was Austin-based and which I had a relationship with from my time there in undergrad. They are more of a middle market PE firm. I think today probably $3 billion in AUM. But we're starting a smaller office in New York that was a high yield credit platform. So preferred equity, mezzanine loans, but on real estate. So a little bit of a equity like debt, type of product. Spent 3.5 years there. They ultimately were super supportive of me going to school to the extent that they sponsored me. So I'll return there after I graduate. But while in school, I wanted to really broaden my exposure and lean into some different stuff. And that for me transpired as working at a venture capital firm called Alpaca, which is they have an early and late stage fund focused on startups, basically impacting the built world. It could mean a lot of different things, from home building automation and 3D printing to a marketplace connecting suppliers and architects and stuff like that. So it was a really awesome, eye-opening experience, and kind of stretched me in a lot of different ways. But now just really trying to lean into my second year, and it's going by fast. We'll keep moving, try to. I would say, look, we put a handful of slides together. I think put your questions in the Q&A. We'll try to get through the slides quickly and then just, blitz right into a more interactive, answering questions that y'all want. Allie Mack, I can just kick off here, if that's cool. Okay, so Allie Mack and I are co-presidents of the Real Estate Association. It's one of the larger career focused clubs at CBS. One, I'm super excited to see that there's like 70 people attending this. That's pretty cool to see. I think Alan Mack and I were talking, there were maybe 5 or 10 when we did these things when we were in Yale shoes. So that's exciting. At the end of the day, the REA is for people that want to go into real estate. But beyond that, it's for people that are just interested in real estate in some way, shape, or form. I think from our perspective, there's really 3 kind of goals or 3 points of our mission that we anchor to. Careers and recruiting. Let's get people in front of and have the opportunity to get the best job they can, and let's make sure they're prepared for it. Education and exposure. This is a incredible opportunity to take 2 years to just dive into the industry and get exposed to as much as possible and really have a curious mind. And, the REA, with the support of the Milstein Center, does a great job of enabling that, which we'll get more into in a moment. And then finally, mentorship and relationship building. At the end of the day, real estate is a network-driven business. That's not lost on anyone. We put a lot of time and focus into building relationships between students and alumni, students and adjunct professors, students and professionals, but most importantly, the internal group of students that we have for this 2-year period. Because at the end of the day, if we can become good friends and really spend time together and form genuine relationships, those will go a long way down the road. Mac, do you want to touch on the Milstein Center?
Sure. Yeah, like I said earlier, I think something that really makes Columbia Business School unique is the really phenomenal support that we as students receive from the Paul Milstein Center for Real Estate. So it's essentially like a hub at the school. It employs 4 or 5 full-time employees whose sole purpose is to support real estate focused endeavors at CBS. And so we're like super fortunate to have them. The great slate of speakers that we have on a like weekly, bi-weekly basis is thanks to a lot of their leadership. They also do a really great job looping in our alumni so that we have like full support from them and we continue to be funded. So I would say that the Milstein Center is really just like a differentiator, both in my experience being at CBS, but also as I was applying, it's just like unparalleled as far as business school programs go. And essentially, Brendan and I have like a much easier job than a lot of club presidents do because we have such a great amount of support from them. And we'll talk a little bit more in the following slides about like what some initiatives are that they really support us on. So I don't want to go super deep into that just yet.
Yeah, I would just emphasize, like, as you guys, all of you guys and girls are approaching and thinking about your MBA decision, if, as a real estate minded person, this is not something that should be taken for granted. There's a handful of programs that are backed by a dedicated real estate center. You all probably know what those are, but it makes such a massive difference. There's 6 full-time faculty, 11 adjunct professors, and then a lot of support staff whose literal full-time job is to, put forth a program that is as strong as possible. And that does not exist everywhere. And I think at CBS, we have a pretty strong program. We can blitz through these pretty quickly. This is just more diving into sort of the 3 pillars we went over earlier, in terms of the focus of the club. Careers and recruiting, like obviously that's going to be top of mind for everyone. And at the end of the day, we're a career-focused club. We have an executive in residence program that's really in partnership with the Milstein Center. Leanne Lockman and Scott Shapiro are sort of the real estate representatives there. That's basically an opportunity to connect and form one-on-one relationships and a sort of mentor-mentee relationships with proven and distinguished industry professionals that are invested in the school and helping students, land the best positions possible. We also have this Career Management Center fellows, which if y'all don't or aren't aware of the CMC, y'all will very quickly become aware. They basically are the backbone of all things recruiting at CBS, and we sort of, between the PMC, us, and the CMC, there's sort of a triangulation of opportunities there. As a club, we have several things and initiatives to sort of prepare students for the recruiting process. We have a careers in real estate workshop that's basically, let's bring in professionals throughout the semester, throughout the year, that represent a range of different positions within the industry, whether it's acquisitions, asset management, portfolio management, investor reporting, or debt versus equity. We try to get students exposure to sort of the 360-degree view of the industry, so they can kind of pick and choose, where they think is going to be the best fit for them. We have, particularly right now, it's easy to talk about companies coming in, multiple times a week to basically recruit actively and get students exposure to what they do. And these are really the companies in real estate that have dedicated full MBA recruiting programs. Not all companies in real estate have that. There is a big enterprise recruiting component to this industry while pursuing your MBA. But that's where we loop in things like our real estate career forum, where we bring 30 to 40 companies on campus sort of at the end of the year, or the beginning of next year. These are generally a bit smaller in size, that want to hire 1 or 2 MBA students, and we give students the opportunity to network and connect with them. In addition, as a club, as you might guess, we have recruiting guides, student-led training, mock interviewing, all that sort of stuff, to try to help everyone be ready to go and put their best foot forward. Oh, and this, I think we'll be able to send the deck out. I'm not totally positive, but this is just a snapshot of sort of the recent recruiting landscape for the last graduating class and our Allie Mack and I's internship class. At the end of the day, look, there's big firms recruiting, there's small firms recruiting. There's an opportunity when you come to CBS and you're focused on real estate to get into any sort of role you want and get in front of any company you want. And you just have to be strategic about how you do it. That's kind of what
I think this is from the employment report, which is available to like anyone online. If you just type in Columbia Business School employment report, they have a lot of statistics about where students are going, what the placement rate is, what like average salaries are. So I know there was a question about that in the Q&A, so just want to address that while we're on this slide.
And I would say, Allie Mack, I think you'd agree, but within a given class, you have 20 to 40 folks that are recruiting heavily for real estate. And within that, you get a pretty strong balance of folks that want to be on the capital side, folks that want to be on the development side, folks that want to be at a bigger shop versus folks that have been in the industry and now want to go smaller. And I think that's one of the really cool things about, spending 2 years in this ecosystem, and like the relationships you're building are going to be with folks that are doing a range of different things, and will hopefully, and I'm pretty positive, will be impactful, 5 to 10 years down the line.
Yep. Sure, I can address the slide. So like Brendan said, education and exposure to the industry is super important, especially for a lot of our students that are career switchers like me. It was like, and I would, we don't have any like data or statistics, but I would say there's probably close to half of the students that are recruiting for real estate careers, they do not have a background in real estate. And so it was like vitally important for me and those other folks to really like gain that literacy that's necessary to be successful in the recruiting cycle. So we've set up a bunch of different opportunities for students to do just that. Like I said earlier, we have a distinguished speaker series that the Paul Milstein Center supports and sources and sets up speakers for. That typically happens like once, twice, 3 times a month. On a bi-monthly basis, we have company and site visits. So that is like a vice president position within the Real Estate Association board. We go to a lot of different, like, really cool site tours around town, around New York. We've gone to see Related development in Hudson Yards. We've gone to see CIM's development of multifamily property in Dumbo. There's just like a ton of different really cool examples that we've gone to. We're going to see the Domino Sugar Factory development this Friday in Brooklyn. So that's like a really cool opportunity to see like behind the curtain of a lot of different developments in New York that you wouldn't get to see otherwise. We also do domestic and international treks. Next weekend, we are going to Austin, Texas, which Brendan is helping to lead since he spent some time there prior to business school. So we'll do a bunch of different really cool company visits while we're there, but we'll also do some fun stuff to like bond, because at the end of the day, we are all like really good friends, and we're gaining that network of friends that we're gonna have for the rest of our life, which I can talk about later. I think is like really the number one value of an MBA program. And then in the spring, we have an international trek over spring break to India, which is student-led and Paul Milstein Center and Chazen Center supported. Last year, Brendan helped plan our trek to Australia. The year before, we went to Argentina. Yeah, so here's some photos. You can see in the upper right-hand corner, everyone in Sydney, Australia. Last year, we went to Washington, D.C. We also do a ton of case competitions, so that's important to us. We are going to the Austin case competition next month. And Brendan, do you want to talk like a little bit about the Australia trek? I feel like that's like an interesting thing for students.
So I think the picture slides are more exciting. I was one of 4 that helped plan the Australia trek. We try to do one domestic trek per semester, and then we partner with Chazen to do an international trek. The year before we did Argentina. Last year we did Sydney, Australia. This year, as Ali Mack mentioned, we're doing India. It was, one of the defining experiences of my CBS time thus far. And I think spending a week with a tight cohort of people in an incredible place, obviously, like, it's going to be a pretty awesome experience. But one thing I took away is just like, you see those companies in the top left, all massive institutions, that I was literally finding contacts of CEOs, CIOs, group heads, 18 hours across the world by plane, and cold emailing them and getting immediate responses and excitement to host us in Sydney, Australia. And I think it just goes to show what the CBS brand means to folks around the world. And that was pretty impactful to me. But building beyond that, I think the opportunity to be on the board with the Real Estate Association, you get to plan things like this, you get to own these things, and work on not only your technical side and that sort of stuff, but really becoming a leader and trying to become a leader. And it was a big experience for me, and an awesome one. Ali, maybe we try to get through and save like 10 minutes for questions. And this is just a snapshot of the real estate curriculum. It's a super strong curriculum, touches everything you need to know and more. The professors we have are incredible. And again, something I took away from a mentor of mine who did his executive MBA with CBS is these are professors that you want to build relationships with, because they are doing big things in the industry, and you get a chance 3 hours per week to spend time with them, ask them questions, pick their brain. And it's something that's super exciting. Kind of third pillar, and one of the funner ones within the club, we try to encourage a lot of mentorship and relationship building. This comes through, as I mentioned, external alumni mentorship kind of structuring, where you build a relationship with a professional and sort of a path that you want to pursue, as well as internal, more second year to first year type of mentorship relationships that are set up within the club. Additionally, we have a Women in Real Estate Summit that actually was our first one last year. That's in partnership with the MS Red program, and the GSAP school is really a pretty phenomenal event, and one we are going to continue building on. And then, you know, we're a fun club. I like to think at least we have a pretty busy social calendar. You know, one cool experience this summer for the folks in NYC is we organized a social or a mixer for kind of all the M7 MBA real estate folks that were in the city, and you can see that in the bottom right. But we tend to have a pretty good time. And that's kind of the wrap on the plan stuff. I would say follow us on Instagram, follow the Milstein Center on Instagram, as well as LinkedIn. You'll kind of get some insight into, you know, what we're up to and what we have going on.
Cool. We can hop into some of the questions. That works. The first question is from Sarah. Can you speak on the approximate proportion of real estate focused students who plan to launch or their own renter development firm directly post graduation? We don't have a ton of like direct data on these things, especially since they differ like a ton year to year, and the sample size is limited. Like Brendan said earlier, we have 20 to 40 students each year that are really in earnest recruiting for real estate roles. I would say I know off the top of my head like 2 to 3 students per class that are doing something like this directly post school. But obviously it differs. I think those students find a ton of resources available to them at CVS. And then I guess further, I know a ton of students that have ambitions to do these things. I would say a majority of folks that are recruiting for real estate have that ambition, but aren't planning on doing it directly after school. But I think something that I've learned from the program is like the network that you're building, and then the access to capital that you might have through other students that are attending an MBA is quite shocking. Is like a big surprise to me. So that's definitely a common thread, and definitely something that you can be equipped to do at CPS. And then
I'll take the next one, Ally Mac, just because I think I have a decent perspective on it. James McKenna asked, what do you see as the biggest advantage of getting an MBA in real estate versus working in the industry and getting professional experience? I think this is a super fair question. As I mentioned, I was in the industry for 5 years and decided to go back to school. Real estate is not an industry, to be perfectly frank, where an MBA is required or sometimes even encouraged. So I think at the end of the day, you have to buy in to this is going to raise the ceiling of my career 10 to 20 years down the road. You're taking 2 years off, which the honest truth is those are going to be 2 years of deals getting done, 2 years of experience where your colleagues and counterparts are getting those reps and you're not. And what I have become quite confident in, and the trade-off there is that, you know, well, one, I've been fortunate that the market's been pretty funky since I went back to school, so I don't think there's many deals getting done anyways. But two, I just think it expands what you can do long run. It sets you up to be a leader within a firm or to go start your own firm. It gives you a broader perspective on things outside of real estate. The amount of stuff I've learned and the amount of relationships I've made with people that are doing so many different things it has been such a valuable personal experience for me. And I will say this is like industry or real estate at the end of the day is like, let's put the right product in the right place. And the more you know about the world around you, and the more you know, you have buddies or friends that are, you know, on executive boards that are given company, and they'll let you know they're going to move X thousand employees to Austin. Like stuff like that is super, super important. And that's the kind of stuff you get out of an MBA experience, in my opinion. So I just wanted to hit on that.
Yep. Yeah, there was like a related question, like what the value of an MBA versus a master's in real estate. I think it's like kind of similar to Brendan's points in that like you do get a perspective outside of the real estate industry. You get to take some of those like leadership classes. Brendan and I are both in a managerial negotiations class together this semester. and like you just wouldn't have the opportunity to like really learn how to negotiate in a really specific real estate course or program. So there's a ton of value, I think, in being an MBA program. It makes you more of a holistic leader. There are a number of questions about international opportunities and international recruiting. And that's like also a hot topic within our club. We do have a number of students that are recruiting in Latin America, Asia, Europe, and we actually have because of like a lot of the interest there, we have appointed a board member to be head of our international. And so that person's job is to like field all of the different opportunities that come up and make sure that they're highlighted to the relevant students and make sure that the international students feel like they are properly represented within the club. And so that certainly exists. And I think both the club and CBS's career management center services have really addressed that and made that certainly a path for students that are interested in even going from domestic to international or hoping to return to their home country, or international students are recruiting for domestic opportunities. Cool. You got it?
Yeah, I'll go. Somebody asked about just the real estate curriculum at CBS in context of like having worked in the industry for some time versus not. I think Allie Mack and I could give two different perspectives here that would hopefully be valuable. I think if you're coming into, and this builds on another question that was asked of like how comprehensive is the real estate curriculum at CBS. I think if you're coming in as a career switcher, you lean into the curriculum as much as you possibly can. And the curriculum and everything around the curriculum, the club, the Milstein Center, is designed to position you very, very well to have a, comprehensive understanding of our industry when you leave school. I will, add on the end of that, nothing replaces, real world experience, and nothing is going to replace real world experience. But the curriculum is designed with adjunct professors who bring in real world perspectives. And it is certainly enough to get your foot in the door at the right places and be prepared and educated on the opportunities that you want to pursue. As someone that was in the industry for some time, I've been a bit more selective on the real estate courses that I choose to take. For example, I exempted out of real estate finance, which I have been in real estate finance for 5 years, so I was hoping that I was going to pass that test. And I've just kind of pick and choose and spent some of my time exploring other interests while I had the opportunity. That being said, the real estate curriculum, even for someone like me or other people that have been in the industry, is so strong, particularly as I get into the spring of my second year. That will pretty much be all real estate classes for me. There's advanced seminar in real estate, which is a case study based course, just basically exploring interesting projects. There's real estate private equity, which is really a capstone course where you work with a operator or developer and ultimately pitch. It's really like a case competition, and pitch a PE deal as if you were sort of LP capital at the end of the course. And with, just as a side note, that course comes with like a cash prize at the end, and it's pretty unique one here at CBS. There's real estate mergers and acquisitions, which is obviously advanced and something I don't have a lot of exposure to. And I can go on and on. It's just to say that the curriculum is all encompassing. If you're somebody with experience, you can kind of pick and choose your spots. If you're somebody that's coming in fresh, you can get a hell of a lot out of it.
Yeah, I echo what Brendan said. Like I found the real estate finance course to be really foundational and really like helped provide that like base level of understanding necessary to go into all of those other courses he described. I will say, like, one of the cool and unique parts about Columbia, I think against other MBA programs, is that you don't have to declare a concentration or a major. We just like choose to focus on real estate, but there's aside from a few like small prerequisites, you really don't have, you're not tied to like taking a full load of real estate courses each semester, which I found to be really awesome. You can really tailor your curriculum to you. For example, like my background is in a lot of data analytics, and a goal that I have in like the shorter term is to, wherever I go after school, to really supply that firm with a basic understanding of how data analytics work and how that can be supplemental to a real estate firm. And so I've chosen to like continue that education in data analytics. I've taken some like data integration classes. So like you can really tailor your curriculum to you, and it doesn't have to be like all real estate. It can be really supplementary to whatever career goals that you have. I think it would be there's like a question about recruiting, and I think that could be helpful to chat through. The question is like, in what month do normally interviews take place for internship opportunities? For the internship, it can be really like year round. There are some like really big bulge bracket firms that are coming in the fall and have already started interviewing our students, our first year students, for internships. But for the most part, as many of you probably know, like real estate is a pretty fractured industry. So there are a lot of smaller to mid-sized firms that are recruiting for like 1 or 2 open headcount positions. And so a lot of real estate recruiting, both for internship and full-time, is more just in time. So for me, recruiting didn't really like kick off until February, March. And a lot of that is more networking focused than you might see from the big machines that are like consulting and investment banking recruiting in an MBA program. And so it's pretty unique from those different types of recruiting processes. For full-time, it also can be kind of year round. But again, like a lot of just in time recruiting, so a lot occurs in the spring. But we do have a robust careers program, as Brendan said, both amongst our students and within the program, that do really like make sure students really know what the placement opportunities are outside of like your own opportunities to network into those positions.
I'll touch on one that's pretty straightforward. Someone asked if we've taken courses outside the business school, such as in GSAP or urban planning. I personally have not. I don't think AlleyMac has, but a lot of people in our program do, and it's something that's a pretty cool aspect of CBS, is the access you get to those programs. So I would say it's highly encouraged. There's a lot of compelling courses that you can take that get probably just a little deeper and a little narrower in scope to a specific type of interest or role. I would also go to say, as a club, we're trying to do a lot more networking and relationship building with the other schools within the CBS ecosystem, or not CBS, within the Columbia ecosystem. I think last month we had a mixer with the entire Columbia. Haas organized. There were probably 200 or 300 people there. It was Columbia wide. Anybody interested in real estate, so law school, GSAP, engineering, and so we acknowledge that the business school is not the end all be all, and there's a lot of value that you can get through the institution by taking advantage of those opportunities, and we're trying as a club to support that as well.
There's another question about how CBS programs help determine what role and asset class to focus on for a career after MBA. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like really your decision. There's not like a super structured kind of like way that you can determine that. There's a ton of roles and asset classes that you can look at. I think something that I found to be helpful as someone that had a few ideas, but like really didn't have the exposure to really fine tune those ideas, was this one panel that we host every fall called the Avenues in Real Estate. It's hosted by Leanne Lockman, our executive in residence, one of our 2 executives in residence. She really goes through like all of the different types of like roles in the industry, the different asset classes, the different types of like positions that you could go at it from. And so for that, like it really helped me like both gain that literacy, because you hear people talk about like being on the capital side, you hear about like buy side, sell side, you hear about like acquisitions versus asset management. There's just like a ton of things. And so being able like to hear from an expert in the industry, like how to like really pick all those things apart and then start forming your own opinions about like what of those things are most interesting to you, I think is really helpful. But it's like an ongoing like experience and growth opportunity to kind of figure that out for yourself. All right, I think we are down to the last minute or two. So we've been prompted to wrap up with a question or a favorite real estate association memory. I think mine was this past spring. We had a real estate like mini trek to Philadelphia in February. And it was like a little bit impromptu, but it was just a really fun experience. It was like February, so it was at about the time, 6 months in, when I started feeling like really close to the other members of the club and felt like those were my people. It was also as like recruiting was kicking up, like really bracketing up for me. And as like someone that doesn't come from the industry, I especially at that point didn't feel as like confident about like my ability to interview and gain those roles. And so I felt really empowered to like speak to my different friends and colleagues in the club, and like we were comparing different recruiting experiences and interviews, and it like really hit me on that like mini trip that this was like a little bit more of my family than just like a group of people that have like a mutual interest. The Philadelphia trek was also awesome too. We got to see some really cool companies and sites. But I think that was like the trip in which I realized that like the real estate association is going to be like my group, my network for the rest of my career. And I feel really supported by them. I don't feel like I'm really like head-to-head competitors with them. I think as like friends and colleagues, we really want each other to succeed, and we'll do whatever we can to make our friends succeed. So that was like just like a moment this past year that really got me in my feelings for real estate.
I would just add, I mean, one, Australia was probably the coolest experience as it relates to REA for me so far. I would say though, and I guess leave you all with this, working with Allie Mack, her and I were in the same cluster. We were first years together. We went through the core together, becoming presidents of this club together, and sort of owning it and, having some pride in it has been a pretty awesome experience for me. And I would just say real estate, not real estate. There's so many opportunities to do that in business school, to stretch yourself as a future leader, to manage an organization, to develop relationships. And it's just been really, really cool to sort of lean into that as someone who really, you spend the first 5 years of your career more as an analyst associate where you're more heads down. And I just don't take for granted the opportunity to stretch yourself as a leader by pursuing your MBA. And you get a lot of freedom to come in and own stuff and create the experience that you want. So I'm biased. We're both biased, but go to CBS and join the Real Estate Association. Follow us on Instagram.
Brendan, will you switch back to the slide with our pictures on it so that people can get our email addresses
Yes.
if they missed it the first time? We are super open to like chatting with any prospective students. I know we didn't get to address everyone's questions today, but please reach out to us via email or over LinkedIn. We're happy to share our experiences or even connect you with another student that might be able to most adequately answer any questions you have. So thanks so much for attending. We really appreciate it, and we hope y'all had a great time as well.
Yeah.